Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I am your host again, Dr. Olusegun Oshinaye, uh, bringing the second episode of our book review, a 1,000 book transformational challenge. Today, I'll be reviewing another book authored by Dr. John C. Maxwell. And the title of the book I'll be reviewing today is developing the leaders around you. There is no doubt that this book and the previous book that I shared with you last time, which was developing the leaders within you. There is no doubt that these two books, plus additional book written by Oswald J. Sander, that was spiritual leadership. Those were the three major books on leadership that I read early on in my life. I read those books 98, 97, and the transformation those three books brought to my life had been very, very dramatic. And that is why I felt that there will be the books that I will start this podcast with, particularly knowing fully that those were the books that really shaped me and turned me to be an apostle of transformational leadership. So I'll be reviewing this book, and I promise you this is going to be another wonderful review. It's going to bless you. You're going to learn a lot from the book. This book and the other book that I shared with us the last time were the main book that form the core of my leadership belief. So, of course, like I said, the author of the book is John C. Maxwell. This book is divided into 10 chapters. We have about 201 pages in the book, excluding the end notes or the notes. It was published in 1995. The first one that I reviewed the last time, which was leadership, developing the leadership within the leadership within you, was written in 1993, but this was written in 1995. So about 2 years after he had to write this, which was this was a follow-up. This book was a follow-up to the previous book that I reviewed the last time. So it was written in 1995 and published by Thomas Nelson Incorporated. So if you ask me about the significance of this book, it's so simple. This is the second major book that was written by John C. Maxwell on leadership principle. For me, I believe that those were the two books that gives you a clear picture of who John C. Maxwell is. Every other thing that he has done around leadership were structures that were built upon these two books. The book till date has sold over 2 million copies, focusing on developing personal capacity to lead and establishing leadership as influence rather than just as management. You know, before John Maxwell books came into the scene, people were looking at leadership more as a management thing, you know, how to manage resources, how to manage people. But it was John Maxwell that taught about leadership as something that needs to be developed. That he taught it as something, as a capacity that needs to be developed, rather than as something that needs to be managed so that you can get the best out of it. He taught us that leadership is something that can be developed, that can be improved upon, that you can really get value for your money for, rather than just trying to squeeze whatever little you are able to get from what you have. It taught us that you can improve on the asset that you have, which are your people. So it taught this principle as an influence, something you do to impact, to elevate people's capacity rather than as management. Like I told you the last time, John Maxwell is a respected mentor and role model of mine. And there is no doubt that he has shaped how I see leadership since 1998. And of course, my leadership understanding was elevated by reading two of his books. I've read countless other books written by him. In the course of time, I'll be reviewing some of them. I consider his books as one of my most treasured assets, and I'll be sharing some of those books with you. But we're going to stick with this, developing the leaders around you. Now, let me give you a quick summary of what this book is all about. Now, developing the leader around you is another classic leadership book written by John C. Maxwell. And like I told you, is a follow-up to the first one that was written, which is developing the leader within you. And the main thesis of this book is that you cannot do it alone. I've seen many leaders who are struggling, who wants to do everything all by themselves. They want to be the one to do marketing. They want to be the one to do human resources management. They want to be the one to do finance. They want to be the one to do the accounting, to do budgeting. Hey, you cannot do it alone. And this is what this book is talking about. It's simply telling you that you need other leaders. You need to develop, you need to train other leaders around you to be able to get the job done. So the main idea of this book is that you cannot do it alone. If you want to be successful as a leader, you must develop other leaders around you. Like you know, most leaders today only want followers. They want people to follow them. They don't want people who are going to be like a star like them. They want people who, when they say yes, they want them to say yes. When they say no, they want them to say no. They don't want somebody who can really challenge their position, their authority. But if you are that kind of leader, I don't think this book is for you. But if you really want to take your leadership to the next level, you're not going to start seeking for followers. You have to start looking for leaders to develop. There is nothing you will gain by just gaining more followership. In social media today, people are looking for more followers, but you don't really need more followers. You need more dedicated leaders to develop. And I need to let you know that those who are closest to you, like Maxwell said in his book, are the people who are going to determine how successful you will be in your endeavor. So you want to focus on people who can take your work and take it to the next level. And you cannot do that by yourself. You need people around you to develop, to train, to nurture, to empower, and to release so that they can take your work to the next level. Apart from the idea that you need people around you to take your work to where you will not be able to go yourself. Other than that, this book also talks about the power of momentum. And it was like, after I understood how momentum works, every now and then I have opportunity to lead a group of people. I always let them realize the importance of creating momentum. No matter how good you are as a leader, if you don't have momentum on your side, you are not going to be able to achieve anything. You need momentum to be able to take your work to the next level. Without momentum, you may have great talent. If you don't have momentum, your effort is not going to show. But if you have great talent and you have momentum, it's going to elevate what you're doing. In fact, it will exaggerate, like John Maxwell said in his book, the 21 laws of teamwork. You need momentum. That's the law of the big mo. When you have that law working for you, it will exaggerate even your own talent. It will exaggerate your capacity, your ability to do things. So basically what John Maxwell is saying is that when you do your work consistently enough, without trying to slow down, you are very diligent, you are doing it with everything you've got, and you are putting in everything that you have. Maxwell said when you do that consistently, what you're going to generate is what he calls momentum. Consistency creates momentum. What you continue to do repeatedly over and over again, and you are doing it beautifully, John Maxwell says it's going to create a momentum for you as a leader, and it will create a momentum for your organization. And when that happens, when you have momentum, it makes you look better than you actually have. And when you have momentum, it makes the people that are around you, people walking around you, it also elevates their performance. It increases, it enhances their productivity and their performance. But unfortunately, if you lack momentum, lack of momentum will make you look worse than you are as a leader. And when you lack momentum in your organization or in the community that you are leading, it will decrease the performance of the people in that setting. So apart from the power of momentum, the book also talks about how we can actually develop leaders. And this is what Maxwell called modeling leadership style, that how you model leadership to people, so that through that modeling, through what you are doing as a leader, you are able to develop other leaders. So John Maxwell gave us simple approach to how we can model leadership to other people. And he said one of the easiest way for us to model leadership one of the easiest way to develop leaders is to model leadership to them. And how do you do that? He mentioned about 7 things that you need to do to develop other leaders. Number 1, you need to place emphasis on production rather than on position or title. There are some organizations, their focus is on title, regardless of whether they are producing or not. They just keep giving themselves different titles and positions. But if you want to model leadership to people, you have to focus on production. You have to focus on results. Like one of the leaders that I worked for in the ministry when I was in Nigeria, he will always say, I don't reward He said, I appreciate effort, but I reward results. So as a leader, you have to focus on people who produce results rather than people who are just making efforts. So that's one of the things you need to do to model leadership to people, promote production rather than position or title. Another thing you need to do to model leadership to people is to provide growth for opportunity. And you need to provide growth opportunity for them so that they have opportunity to develop themselves. Maybe there are training they can go to enhance their skill, or there are some certification that they can do to hone their skills. There are places you want to send them to gain exposure. You need to provide growth opportunity for people. Without growth opportunity, the leaders you have around you are not going to develop. But if you provide such opportunity to them, you're going to see them develop some amazing skill that will even be an amazement to you. So another thing you need to do to model leadership to people is to lead with vision. I cannot say I cannot say anything less about this. Your vision as a leader has to be top notch. You have to lead with vision rather than leading through management. You know, sometimes I get very, well, I say very upset in my spirit when I see some leaders, rather than allowing vision to be the motivation for what they do, they rather prefer to manage the situation. And in the ministry, particularly in the ministry that I belong to, in Anglican ministry, we call such people maintenance minister. They don't want to elevate the work that they have met on ground. They would rather maintain it, at least to stay for the work to remain as it is. They don't want it to go lower, but unfortunately, there is no way you can take something good and you refuse to improve on it, and you think the thing will remain that way. It's not going to be. It's just a question of time. It will start depreciating in value. We call such people maintenance minister. So you don't want to be somebody who maintains structure. To maintain structure is good, but what you really need as a leader is not to maintain what you met on ground, but to elevate it so that you can go to the next level. Another thing you need to do to model leadership to people is to do big things. Don't be small-minded. Expand your horizon. Let people inspire you. Let big thinkers inspire you. Look at what great men are doing. Don't allow your life or people with small mind to mentor you. Expand your scope of understanding. Look at people who are doing big things and emulate such people. So as a leader, you have to learn how to do big things, not to be small-minded. Then you need to focus on building a team. And of course, you know, that is what this book is all about. Focusing on building a team that will carry on with your vision, not on building monuments. What I see nowadays is leaders who are just building monuments. They are not focusing on building people. Monuments are not your legacies. It is the people that you have built who are going to carry on with your work. That is your legacy. So rather than focusing on building different relevant projects here and there, focus more on building people, because it is the people that you have built that will keep on with your vision when you are no longer on the scene. Look at Jesus, for example. When he started I would say he started a school. When he started a school, he didn't start a church. He started a school and he had 12 students in that school and he tutored them for 3.5 years. And after 2,000 years, you can see what the turnover of what they have done and become. We have well over 3 billion Christians all over the world today, just because somebody decided to empower 12 students. He didn't build any church. He didn't build any cathedral. He didn't have multiple stations all over the place. He just focused on pouring himself into 12 people for 3.5 years. After 3.5 years, he left the scene. He allowed them to do their things. And then over time, they continue to multiply their leadership. They continue to transfer what they have learned from him to the next generation. And now look at what the work has become today. That is how to model leadership to people. Another thing you need to do to model leadership to people is that you will need to learn how to make difficult decisions. Leadership is about making decisions and right decisions at that. There is opportunity to make tough decisions will always present themselves to you as a leader. In fact, the reason why people are going to recognize you as a leader is because of some of those tough calls you're going to make. As leaders, you're going to have opportunity to make very, really difficult decisions. And that is what makes you a leader. And that is what you have sworn to when you decide to take up the leadership mantle. You will have opportunity to make difficult decisions. And when you are able to do that, you allow other people to see you, how you are able to take decision under pressure, how you are able to make quick decision when time is not on your side to make a better decision. You just have to think on your feet and make a decision that will determine the direction of the entire organization. So making tough decisions is one of the ways we model leadership to people. As a leader, you cannot afford to chicken out. You cannot afford to be fearful. You cannot afford to lose courage when you need to show audacity in your decision making. Another thing you need to do to model leadership to people is that as a leader, you will need to pay the price of leadership through personal growth. I'm going to say more on that later on, but I just want you to know that leadership is expensive. I must tell you that. Well, I've been on the leadership journey now for about 30 years. I'm not yet there, but very close to 30 years. I've been on this leadership journey since 1998. And I can tell you that wanting to become a leader is a big sacrifice. That is going to cost you a lot. And I know what I'm talking about. I know people who are far ahead of me. They will tell you the same thing I'm telling you, that leadership is costly. It's very expensive, and it will require you to grow in silence, in the secrets. When nobody is there looking at you, you are growing, nobody sees your tears, nobody sees the candlelight you are burning, nobody sees the sleepless night you are having. Nobody is going to see all that, but you have to do all those to be able to grow as a leader. Another thing John Maxwell emphasized on about the task of a leader is that as a leader, you will need to nurture other potential leaders. That is the whole essence of this book. It is you rolling off your sleeve and then wanting and trying to develop other leaders. And Maxwell gave us a powerful acronym through which a leader can do this. He called it BEST acronym. And the B there stands for believe in them. If you don't believe in people, there is no way you can develop them. You have to believe in people before their leadership potential can emerge. Not only believe in them, you have to encourage them. You have to give them the courage to step into the big shoe that you are leaving behind. You have to encourage them that they can do it. You have to show them the possibility that it can be done. And then you have to share with them, and you have to share the platform with them. Don't just be a leader who does not want other people to come to your platform. You have to open up your space for them to demonstrate what they've got. You have to open up opportunity for them to display their leadership ability. And not only that, you also have to trust them, believe in them, encourage them, share with them, and trust them. This is what Maxwell called BEST, which is the leader's crucial task. That is the crucial task of a leader, is to believe in people, to encourage people, to share the platform with people, and to trust the people that you are leading. Another thing that Maxwell also emphasized, I know I spoke about the Pareto principle in the first book that I reviewed, the 80 to 80, 20% rule for leadership development, which is the Pareto principle. What John Maxwell is trying to say when it comes to leadership development using the Pareto principle is that for you to get the best results for your organization, you need to focus on the most promising 20% among your people. As a leader, you are not called to develop everyone in your organization. You can't do it. It is not possible. If you try to do that, you're going to waste your energy and you are not going to get results. If you want the best result for yourself, for your organization, and for the people you are leading, you have to seek out the 20 most promising, talking in percentage, 20% of the most promising people in your organization, and focus on those group. Develop them, pour yourself into them, lead them, guide them, instruct them, teach them, empower them, pour yourself into them. And you know what is going to happen when you do that to those 20%? Those 20% are going to produce the 80% output that you're going to have in your organization. That is what they're going to return back to you. They're going to generate 80% of your results in your organization. And that was exactly what Jesus did. You know, Jesus didn't just have the 12. He had the 12, he had the 72, he had the 120, he had the 500. But who were the people that Jesus really focused his attention on? On the 12. He had more time with the 12 than with the 72, than with the 120, than with the 500. He had more time. The 12 were always with him. That is how to grow your organization. That is how to grow your community. Focus on the 20% potential leaders you have around you and pour yourself into them. And this is the 5 steps that Maxwell identified that you also can use to mentor the people in your the 20% potential leaders in your organization. The first thing that Maxwell does to them is to model leadership. I model. That is, this is when he does something and allow other people to see him, to see what he has done. And so he says it this way: I model. This is when I do something, I allow others to see me and do what I do. That is model. And I think I shared with us the last time that model is a very powerful thing. It's even more, mentoring is good, but modeling is even more powerful than mentoring. Because when you model, when somebody calls you a role model, what it means is that they assume your state, the very state that you had when you achieved that unimaginable results. They also get into that same state, and then they are able to produce exactly what you are able to produce. That is the power of modeling. So when you model something to people and then they assume your state, they are going to generate exactly the same result that you generated. Another way of empowering people, of equipping people, the 20% within your organization, the 20% potential leader within your organization, is to mentor. You're modeling, you're mentoring. And what is mentoring? This is a coaching system whereby you do and you help us, and they also help you as they do. You are doing something, they are providing their own support in what you are doing. Through their support in what you are doing, they are also gaining experience. They are learning from what you are doing. That is mentoring. You are also tutoring them. You are teaching them whatever they are doing wrong. You are telling them it's not the way to do it. This is a better way to do it. They are gaining experience. You are giving them exposure. They are learning. They are improving. That is not the only way. You model, you mentor, then you also monitor. I monitor. And what does that mean? That is when you do something and you provide opportunity for others to do the same thing. You look at what they are doing, you provide an oversight over them to give feedback and support. That's what monitoring is. You are not just leaving them to survive on their own. You are providing support, you are providing feedback on what they are doing so that they know when they are making progress or not. Another thing is to motivate as another step in equipping people, to motivate them. You watch, you do what you've already done something, and then you release them to go and do it on their own without you necessarily looking at what they are doing, and then they just, this is cheering them on. You are telling them you can do it. You can do it. You are not really providing support. You are just their cheerleader. That's another way to empower the 20% potential leaders within the organization. There is when to model, there is when to mentor, there is when to monitor, but there is another moment when you just need to motivate. You don't need to give any feedback. You are just, whether they make mistake or not, you just keep cheering them on, telling them that they can do it. The final stage through which you can equip people is through multiplication. I multiply. And how do you multiply? You multiply by developing leaders. And those leaders that you have developed, they also in turn developed other leaders after they have gained some level of experience and confidence. They also in return train other leaders who in turns continues to train other leaders. So it continues in cycle like that. And that is exactly how the church started, from 12 people to over 3 billion people in the world today. That is the effect of multiplication. Now, as a leader, one of your main responsibility as a leader is that you will always have opportunity to give. That's your primary role as a leader. Leaders are givers. I'm not necessarily talking about money here, because in our generation today, we are too quick to always narrow everything down to money whenever we're talking about giving. But as a leader, you will always have opportunity to give. And here are the three main things John Maxwell highlighted as some of the big three things that you will need to give as a leader. Number one, you will need to give responsibility. If you want your people to take responsibility, you have to give it to them. If you don't give them responsibility, they will never be responsible. You have to allow them to take charge. You have to allow them to assume that role of leadership that you've always believed that you are the only one that can do it. You have to give responsibility to people. Not only that, you have to give authority to people. And how do you do this? John Maxwell says, for you to give authority to people, you have to give them permission to develop their own authority, because true authority cannot actually be given. It can only be heard. So, but you have to give them that permission to hand that authority. And the only way they can hand that authority is by actually displaying that authority. And that's very powerful. And that's one of your major responsibility as a leader. Another thing that you will need to give as a leader is that you will give accountability. You have to give feedback. That's very, very crucial. You have to give honest feedback on how your potential leaders are behaving, how they are acting out their leadership responsibility. You have to give honest feedback on the accomplishments of your potential leaders. So these are the three big things that John Maxwell says you will, of necessity, give out as a leader. Give out responsibility, you give permission for your people to develop their own authority, then you give feedback, honest feedback. You can mark that. It has to be honest feedback. You are not holding anything back. You are not giving them unnecessary praise. You are chastising them when it is appropriate. You are also telling them that they have done well when it is necessary to tell them that they've really done well. So what is the big idea that this book is actually trying to teach, developing the leaders around you? What is the big idea that is in this book? The big idea that is in this book is that this book is teaching us that growth and development of people is the highest calling of leadership. Leadership is not people running up and down and jumping up and down to serve you. No, that's not the highest goal of leadership. The highest calling of leadership is to train, empower, develop, nurture, and raise other leaders. That is what this book is talking about. In other words, for you to be a leader that people will honor and respect, you have to help your people to develop a personal growth plan. When I started off my life, I really started living from, because that is when I became intentional with my life. So my life actually took a positive direction from December 1996, because that was when I actually became intentional about my life. And although I didn't know that there was anything called growth plan, but I knew that I became very intentional, very dedicated, very focused, very consistent with how I was living my life from that moment forward. So as a leader, one of the things you would need to do for your potential leaders within your organization is to help them develop a growth plan. And how do you help them develop a growth plan? John Maxwell says through what Nightingale said, that if you want to become an expert, there is just maybe one or two things to do. All you have to do to become an expert is to spend 1 hour every day for 5 years focusing on the same subjects. For example, if you want to become an expert on leadership, all you just need to do is to spend 1 hour every day on the subject of leadership for 5 years. When you do that, you become an expert in leadership. And it applies to any other thing. If you want to become an expert in neurosurgery or in psychiatry or in nursing or in whatever, all you just need to do is to spend just an hour every day for 5 years. But in my own case, I was reading 2 to 3 books every week, and I did that for between 1996, December 1996 to October 2004. That was about for a period of 8 years. Yes, for a period of 8 years. Now, when I did the maths, that was when I realized that I've read over 1,000 books. Now, I didn't set out originally to read 1,000 books. I was just very, very thirsty for knowledge. I was very, very desperate to learn. I was very hungry for knowledge. So every book I see, I was reading. Of course, good books. Every person I met that has a good book, I became their friend with. If only on the basis of that book connection, I will be their friend. I get the book, I read the book, I make sure I return the book in good condition, because I didn't have money to buy all those. But I was also using my own personal money to buy a lot of books. As a student, as a university student, my library was worth over thousands of naira. And I mean thousands of naira. And I built about 3 libraries. Now my library is basically in my Kindle now. I have a lot of books on my Kindle that I also, because I suddenly discover it's very, very expensive for me to be moving my books all around. So I focus more on buying books on Kindle. With my Kindle, I have my entire library with me anywhere I go in the world. So you need a growth plan. And one of the things I also did to develop myself as a leader was that I also discovered that every day since 1998, I spent 2 to 3 hours every day I mean every day. Listening, we call it podcast today, but then we call it motivational message or whatever you call it. But it's not just motivational message that I listen to today. I listen to very good educative podcasts. Some of the podcasts that I listen to 5 hours at a stretch, 3 hours, 2 hours, 1 hour, and I have been doing this since 1998. And that is why I believe that if you enroll in this 1,000 transformational book challenge that I'm bringing to you, uh, plus or minus, you may become wealthy along the way, but I'm not teaching you to be wealthy in that sense, but I want you to be wealthy in the enrichment of your mind, in the enrichment of your mindset. I want that transformation to take place in your mind because in real life, the wealth that you actually need is not money. The wealth that you actually need is the richness of your mind. That is the acres of diamond. You know, there is also a book that is called Acres of Diamond. That is where the acres of diamond is. Money is an idea. And when you have a bunch of that ideas residing in your mind, you discover that you don't need money. People that are always looking for money up and down. Let me tell you the truth, you don't need money. What you need is just one great idea that will transform your life. So you need a growth plan. And I've just shared with you what John Maxwell said, how to become a great man. If you want to become an expert on any subject, Nightingale says you need 1 hour every day for 5 years, focusing on the same subjects. So this book is also is a way to tell us that to develop other leaders, that is one of the assignments we must do. We must empower our people to embark on a personal growth plan. Another thing that this book is very strong on is on the subject of delegation. As also one of the responsibility of leadership, you need to learn how to delegate. You know, I told you at the beginning that one of the things John Maxwell said about this book is that you cannot do it alone as a leader. So you will need to delegate. When you delegate your responsibility or some of your tasks, it will help you. It will help you to have chances for you to be able to grow in other areas of your life. And when you lack delegation in your organization, what it does is that it will create bottleneck in your productivity. It will reduce your ability to produce. In delegation, as a leader, you will make mistake. That is what John Maxwell says. The people you are leading will make mistake. Everybody will make mistake, but that is where the real growth is. Everybody learning from their own mistake. You as a leader, you will learn from your mistake. People that you are also delegating to will learn from their mistakes, and at the end of the day, everybody will grow together in unison. Now, the question is, does this book deliver on its promise? Can we really say that John Maxwell did justice to this book? Absolutely, I would say yes. This book delivered on its promise 100%, because in my own case, it was this book that made me realize that I cannot do it alone as a leader. When I was younger, I used to run a solo life. I practically want to do everything by myself. But the more after I read this book, I suddenly realized that I need to turn things around and focus of collaborating with other people. One of the ways you can grow as a leader is to collaborate with others. And that is what this book teaches. It teaches you that you cannot do it alone. And my biggest takeaway from this book is what John Maxwell said in the concluding part of the book. He says, the only way I can do more is by doing it through other people. That is the philosophy of John Maxwell, that doing things through other people is the only way he believes he can do more as a leader. And he believes that this is the true reality of every leader, whether you like it or not, whether you believe it or not. Your impact as a leader is not going to be through what you are able to do. It's going to be what you are able to do through other people. So how did I feel after reading this book? How did I feel after reading this book? To be honest with you, I felt the necessity to begin to mentor people around me. And I can tell you, those who are truly close to me, they will tell you that their life had been turned around. Not too many people. I have very few associates who are very close to me, whom have submitted themselves to me to mentor them, of course, at different levels. And those who have truly surrendered themselves to me to mentor them, I have seen their life take an unimaginable direction. So that is what I feel, that is how I felt after reading this book. Now, did my experience meet my expectation of this book? I've said absolutely yes, because my journey into leadership actually commenced after reading this book and the previous book that I reviewed. After reading those two books, and of course, the book written by Oswald J. Sander, which is Spiritual Leadership, my leadership understanding took a different direction beginning from that moment. So what is the writing style of the author and the genre of the book? Of course, you can call it a motivational book. We are not too far from that, but the book is truly accessible. Anybody can read and understand this book. The book is very conversational. It's very understandable. There are no too big grammars there. There is nothing you will need big dictionary to learn the meaning thereof. It's very easy. It's a non-fictional business, leadership, and self-help book. Some people consider it to be a Christian literature, even though you hardly find any scriptural reference, but it contains scriptural principles, 100% scriptural principles. And I told you the last time that when I was reading John Maxwell at the beginning of my journey into leadership, I didn't even know he was a pastor because he didn't even disclose that at the beginning. I was always wishing that he would become a Christian, not knowing that he was a pastor himself. Now, who should read this book? Everyone who aspires to become a leader and desire to increase their leadership influence. I will encourage you to get a copy of this book and read. And where can you find this book? You can get a copy of this book on Amazon and other notable bookstores around the world. With just a click, you can get it on Amazon. And if you go to bookstores like Barnes and Nobles, on Seller, and on other numerous platforms, you can actually get a copy of this book. Now, as I conclude this book review on developing the leaders around you, I want to come again to talk to my viewers, particularly if you are under the age of 35. You are you are the people I am sent to. If you are under the age of 35, you need to sit up and hear what I have to say. I need you to start your journey today and come and share with me your journey of 1,000 book challenge. I want to hear about your story. I want to hear about the effort you are making for you to also go through your 1,000 book challenge. I want to be your motivator. I want to be your mentor. I want to be your companion. I want to be your friend. I want to be everything. I want to learn with you. I want to learn how it's going on with you so that we can take the journey together and be a climbing companion together. And I want you to tell me how you are really taking up the challenge. I hope to hear about your story. I hope to hear about your testimony. I hope to hear about the struggles. I hope to hear about the challenge as you take the journey. Until I meet you next time, when I'll be sharing with you another book review. Bye-bye, and God bless you.